The philosopher Richard Double long ago observed, "The question of why quantum indeterminacy should occur just when we manifest libertarian free will strikes me as unanswerable." But free will and a belief in independent agency are of course not readily surrendered, even amongst those most supportive of the reality of precognition. While Einstein not only had no problem with, but actually took deep solace in the non-reality of free will, others who equally suspect the strict linear relationship between past, present, future, such as Darrell Bem, are not ready to let go of causal agency just because future effects can manifest before their necessarily preceding causes. Rather than surrender to an acausal but radically synchronistic block universe, they argue for a second temporal causal pathway, future to present. I find retrocausation to be of no help in making precognition less weird, far preferring what one of its biggest supporters, Eric Wargo, in his book Time Loops, derides as the alternative to retrocausation, the vague acausal fog of synchronicity offered as a compromise by Carl Jung. Jung's synchronicity, whose first stimulus, he said, came from a series of dinners he had with Einstein, and which he later developed with another giant of physics, Wolfgang Pauli, is only foggy when it is compromised, when woven together with causality, as here in Jung's joint schema with Pauli. As Arthur Koestler fairly observed, Jung offers no concrete explanations how the schema is meant to work, and his comments on it are obscure. Uncompromised synchronicity, however, as Schopenhauer said of all forms of clairvoyance, is an ultimate reality, a reality he identified with Kant's noumena, rendering our common sense experience of space, time, and causality as appearance only, Kant's phenomena, and therefore synchronicity, like second sight, can be understood only metaphysically. Physically, it is an impossibility. Insofar as retrocausal explanations of second sight and synchronicity try to preserve the appearance of causality, their compromise is also a foggy mix. But there is strong reason to believe that Jung did not ultimately promote this mix. In Jung's own words, it is impossible with our present resources to explain ESP, or the fact of meaningful coincidence as a phenomenon of energy. This makes an end of causal explanation as well, for effect cannot be understood as anything except a phenomenon of energy. Therefore, it cannot be a question of cause and effect, but of a falling together in time, a kind of simultaneity. Because of this quality of simultaneity, I have picked on the term synchronicity to designate a hypothetical factor equal in rank to causality as a principle of explanation. Jung, by the way, was profoundly influenced by James and spent 2 evenings with him, mostly discussing parapsychology and the psychology of religious experience, or what Jung, in his introduction to Anila Jaffe's book, Apparitions and Precognition, called strange tales that, because they incur the odium of superstition, are generally exchanged only in secret. For a brilliant accounting of why Jung's Parmenidean Einsteinian block universe version of synchronicity has been a secret encouraged by generations of Jungians, I once again recommend Peter Kingsley, whose recent book on Jung, entitled Catafalque, reads like a commentary on these words of Jung in radical defense of his deepest insight. The latest comment about synchronicity is that it cannot be accepted because it shakes the security of our scientific foundations, as if this were not exactly the goal I am aiming at. See also Alan Combs and Mark Holland's delightful book, Synchronicity, which preserves Jung's radical vision of synchronicity rooted in the unus mundus, one world, a level of reality which, like Bohm's implicate order, forms a common foundation
for both mental and physical existence. Synchronicity, second sight, and Bohm's implicate, literally folded in order, constitute a holy trinity of sorts, as we shall later see when we look at Plotinus's folding and unfolding one. A trinity formed from the same denial of causality as Jung's uncompromised synchronicity. As Bohm's collaborator and biographer F. David Peat writes in his Synchronicity book, in building the bridge between mind and matter, the notion of causality must be bypassed in favor of transformations and unfoldings.
Bypassing causality, a key to accommodating second sight, has been sanctionable in the West since David Hume's groundbreaking challenge to causality's common-sense existence. That no matter how many times one event follows another, custom, overwhelmingly witnessed custom, as yet to be seen as otherwise custom, is all you've definitively got, not cause and effect. Hume's challenge may well have been discussed by James and Jung in their evening together, sharing strange tales in secret. Jung, in full agreement with Hume, spoke of the merely statistical nature of causality, and James went further, asserting, the word cause is an altar to an unknown God, an empty pedestal still marking the place of a hoped-for statue. Hume's dismantling of causality earned him Isaiah Berlin's high praise, no man has influenced the history of philosophy to a deeper or more disturbing degree. But Western philosophy's deepest disturbance is Eastern religion's supremest peace. As Vivekananda affirms, the very idea of causation exists only in the phenomenal world. A Sanskrit term, kakataliya, from kaka, crow, and taliya, palm tree, refers to a coconut's falling from a tree just after a crow alights on its branch. In the classic Hindu text, Vasistha's Yoga, a book which Muktananda called like nectar for aspirants of the highest beatitude, all apparent causality is kakataliya. As Hume, James, and Jung would agree, neither the succession of bird alighting, coconut falling, or any other succession entails causal doing, except for the ignorant caught up in this cause and effect tangle or deluded notion that causality is inviolably real. In Eastern texts that explicitly acknowledge the reality of second sight, like the last two classic texts we invoked, can be found an explicit, even emphatic acknowledgement of the non-reality of causation. Hence, the Vasistha's Yoga, even though all seems to happen, there is no creation. The one infinite consciousness alone is thought form or experience. There is no cause and effect relationship. These cause and effect are only words, not facts. Or in Longchen Rabjam's, in naturally occurring timeless awareness, the ultimate heart essence, there is no causality. As Russell Targ summed up the ultimate peace of such timeless awareness in his book Limitless Mind, our peaceful mind can learn to reside outside of time, in a place free of depression about the past, anxiety about the future, or fear of the present. Such ultimate peace, weird as it might sound to Western ears, is not a peace that surpasseth the understanding of two of its most influential thinkers, Parmenides and Einstein, but it does require us to shift from causal doers to acausal arrivers. The esteemed relativity philosopher Adolf Grünbaum, for whom time is non-objective and no more independent of perception than color, put it this way: coming into being is only coming into present awareness. Reducing both subjective and objective being to present awareness is the very stuff of dreams, which nightly simulate a subject-object dualistic world, only later realized to have been non-dual consciousness coming into present awareness.